Good evening. Would you stand with me for the invocation and pledge of allegiance, please? Delegate Connolly, if you lead us in prayer, please.
Let us pray. Father, we come to you today and we thank you so very much for everything that you've done for us, all the blessings that you bestow upon all of us. We thank you for everything that you're going to continue to do for us. Thank you for the ability and the opportunity that we have together here together tonight. We pray that you be with the council as they go about the business of the city. You give them the wisdom to do the things that they need to do. We pray that you be with our first responders and all of our military men at home and abroad. Keep them safe and bring them back to their families, dear Lord. And these things we ask in your name and for your sake. Amen.
Amen. Councilman Azinger, please.
Please join us in the pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we start our meeting this evening, I'd like to ask Delegate Connolly and Jack if you would bring all of your folks up, please. We have a special presentation this evening. Oh, no.
Everybody, all right.
See you.
Good.
I think we need to balance the red out this a little bit.
Hello, folks. One of the things that I really enjoy about serving in the legislature is the opportunity to do things like we're doing here this evening. It gives us the ability to do things that has such an impactful effect, such a positive, long-lasting effect on our communities. And with that being said, I'm pleased to present this check on behalf of the state of West Virginia in the amount of $8,000 to the Friends of Vienna to go toward the completion of the gazebo and the walking track. And folks, I know that the community really gathered around this project, and we're all looking forward to being completed, and hopefully this will help push it across the finish line.
We appreciate it. Thank you.
I know you can figure out what to do with it.
Hey, Jack, I know you want to say a couple words, so go ahead.
No, I just want to
Wait,
say
Teresa.
that,
Here, you get in there. I'll take you.
the only thing I would like to say about the projects, we really appreciate the money. It comes at a good time to really help us out. We're heading in the direction to where we're going. The historic panels that we're having made, we're getting ready to start into getting those made so they'll be able to be installed at the gazebo and into the message boards that are going to be there when this is completed. We also are looking about a couple of booklets that I will present to City Council here at a future date that we're going to be put into the school systems that all relate to Vienna. And I think we've calculated there's 800 some students that this will be touching in the Vienna area. And it's about the history of Vienna. It's interactive for the kids in the school system. So I think it's something that's really going to enhance the area, bring out the history, get people involved of all ages. It also involves exercise because we're going to have walking trails. So I'm accepting the check, but I really wanted these people to be here because they've all had so much input into this whole project, and that's what makes it a great project. But it's being involved by the community, and so it's really fun to be involved with it. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Jack. Jack. Yeah. Okay, Jack, we know most of the members, but for the ones we don't, would you introduce them, please?
Members, let me tell you, it's members of the Friends of Vienna and members of the Vienna Tree Commission. We've got Jody Hopkins that's on the Friends of Vienna, Robin Clark, Matthew Woody, Ed Ball, Rod Smith, and Teresa Smith. And we were hoping to get the rest of them out tonight, but you know, on a night like tonight, like Christmas, we're happy with what we've had show up.
Thank you.
So, anybody else have anything they want to say? Did I leave anybody out? Okay, we're good to go. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Sorry we all wear a red.
I'd like to call to order this regular session of the Vienna City Council for December the 16th, 2021. Let the record reflect that I've taken roll that all members of council are present, with the exception of Councilman Leach. Having a quorum, we will proceed. First item on our agenda this evening is the public forum. We have one person who has signed up to speak this evening, and that would be Brenda Powell.
Yeah, my name is Brenda Powell. I live at 1409 31st Street in Vienna. Thank you very much for being able to come before council this evening. I just wanted to make a couple comments. I'm glad that for the ordinance that it's coming up for the second reading, and that for the procedures for the filling of the positions on council. I'm very thankful that it's being considered as a temporary person being put into a position, and they are going, you're going to have that a vote on the ballot for filling positions. The other thing is the resolution for Joshua McQuaid, I think that's how you pronounce it, for the position for the IT director. I'm glad that he's getting that position. And something I wanted to bring up was actually the cameras. There's been a concern about that throughout the community with people, and wanting to know where things are with that. What is going to transpire as far as replacing or repairing the cameras that are not working. So wanted to bring that up and thinking that maybe you might address that this evening. The other thing is the plans for the Jackson Pool and having a discussion in regards to that. I did make a comment to Councilman Bibby at the last council meeting that with having the deck taken up on the pool, that it would be a perfect opportunity to go ahead and fix what needs to be fixed in the plumbing aspect of it for the baby pool, so that there will be a baby pool this summer. I do appreciate, Mayor, that you talking about doing things in sections and doing things separating. I appreciate that. I think that that's a good idea. I do feel, like I said, that to have a baby pool for this coming summer, I think that just fixing that and for the children to have something until other things come about whenever they're planned. I want to thank you for having the opportunity to speak this evening and wanting to wish everyone a Merry Christmas. Thank you.
The minutes from the council meeting held on December the 9th, 2021 have been printed, posted, and circulated. Are there any corrections to the minutes? If there are no objections, then the minutes will stand approved as posted. The report of the treasurer will be given at the first meeting on January the 13th, 2022. First item on our agenda this evening is an ordinance on second reading. This ordinance is codifying the procedure for filling vacancies in council. I'm going to read it by title only unless there's a question that we need to go into it further. This is an ordinance codifying the procedure for filling vacancies in council. Be it ordained by the Common Council of the City of Vienna that it hereby adopts the following ordinance for the filling of council vacancies for the City of Vienna. This is a rewrite of the ordinance that was passed in 2014. It basically changes the language to include the clarification of placement on the ballot. And so the language there says for the next general, county, or statewide election, which will allow us to let the people vote at the May primary to elect a permanent replacement for the vacancy on city council. Does anyone wish to have the ordinance read in its entirety? All right, hearing none then, I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the ordinance on second reading, codifying the procedures for filling vacancies on council.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the ordinance on second reading. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, then I'll call for the question. All those in favor of the ordinance codifying the procedure for filling vacancies in council, please signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. Just as a backup for some information, Melissa and I had a conversation today with Mark Rhodes, the county clerk, to make sure that everything is in place and we have the proper forms, and she will, after the first of the year, the actual filing period is January the 10th to January the 29th. And so after the first of the year, we will post on our website and our Facebook page all of the forms and where to find them and all the pertinent information for anyone that is seeking a candidate seat. So look for that after the first of the year. The person that is elected will serve the full term up until 2024. Okay. That concludes our unfinished business. We now move to new business. It's a resolution appointing Joshua McQuaid to the position of IT Director for the City of Vienna. Josh has been with us now for almost 2 years, and he has done a very good job of filling in as the IT Director for the last few months. And I think he's earned the position, and so I would like to make the resolution appointing Joshua McQuaid to the position of City of Vienna IT Director. Be it resolved by the Common Council of the City of Vienna that Joshua McQuaid, duly qualified, is hereby appointed to the City of Vienna IT Director position with full benefits and an annual salary of $48,000. I'll entertain a motion for the approval of this resolution.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the resolution. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, then I'll call for the question. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. Brenda, just for clarification, I'm sorry, Tom, you had a question?
The thing, our copy says 46. I'm happy.
It should be
48.
48.
Okay.
Yeah, I sent a draft copy without knowing what the
I'm
numbers
sorry.
were.
Well,
So it should be 48.
It is well,
And the mayor has a corrected copy. I don't know if it got disseminated to the rest of the council.
I don't have any problem.
you just want to point out we needed to fix that, Tom. It should have been fixed.
Yeah, it's in the Dropbox, but I don't think I think your stuff had already been printed by the time
Okay.
it got corrected.
Brenda, just as a note for the question that you asked, since the time that Josh has been here, we have somewhere between 80 and 90% of all the cameras in the city up and running. Okay. I know that the department heads are very happy with that, and we've had some extra cameras added into the park because there's some areas over there that there were kind of blind spots. And so at any rate, we're not 100% yet, but we've got most of the areas of the city covered. So we're very pleased about that. And he's worked very hard to make that happen. So, all right. The last item on our agenda this evening is a discussion for the plans for the Jackson Pool. But before we go into that, I need a quick executive session to discuss a legal matter. And so I would like to take care of that before we actually talk about the pool, because the pool discussion will be a little bit, but the executive session won't take but just a moment. So I'd like to entertain a motion for an executive session to talk about a legal matter.
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded that we go into executive session for a legal matter. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. Let the record reflect that we went into executive session at 6:17.
It's gonna be on my headset.
All right, let the record reflect that we came back into regular session at 6:23, that no decisions were made, it was information only. We'll go back to our regular agenda now. The next item is the discussion for the plans for Jackson Pool. I know that you all have had a week to think about the things that were talked about last week. There is one thing that I would like to bring to your attention. The first meeting in January, we will be receiving a presentation from the engineer that has been hired to do the long-range plan for the park. He will give us an overview of his experience with other cities and the improvements that have been made. And after doing a thorough examination of all the properties that we have in our park system, his recommendations or options for things that have worked in other communities. So having said that, I guess the floor is open for anyone that would like to make a comment about the swimming pool and what you think our plans should be in the near future. Roger?
I'll start.
All right.
As you've seen in my correspondence to you, Mayor, what my recommendation, and we talked about it a little bit in the last meeting. I would hate to see the pool closed down for the summer. And, you know, based that on a lot of things. You know, over the last couple of years, things have not been normal, and people have not led normal lives. We don't know what normal is anymore, but numbers were down in the pool. I recognize that. However, in my moving around the city and watching people that are out and about and that in our parks and are walking and you know, I think a perfect example was the unbelievable turnout, the crowd for the Christmas parade. I mean, I've lived here all my life, and I think it's been a long, long time since I've seen that many people out to watch the parade. But my point is this. Moving forward, I think, you know, people are going to want to be out, to be doing things. They're going to be in our parks. They're going to want to be in our pool. And I would venture to say that the numbers would probably be up if the pool was open to try to get back to that whatever normal is. So my recommendation is, you know, to do it in phases. But as we do it in phase, and, you know, we know that the decking in the pump house has got to be in the initial phase. There's no question about that. That has to be done. But when that decking comes up and the pump house comes down, I think it's important as we do that, we certainly need to look forward and get some assistance from the engineer on how we can do that and get that ready and set that up for the next phase of the pool to eventually get the pool to where we want to be a completed, if you will, you know, based on some of our renderings we've seen and some of the discussions that we've had with Steve Black. As Brenda Powell mentioned, we did have a discussion at the last meeting, and one of the things that I have heard over the last few years, about the only negative that I've heard, is that there is no baby pool. So if there was a way that in phase one, that if we go that route, that we could make the necessary repairs to where we could get the baby pool open and not jeopardize the future, the next phase of the project. That's my feelings. So.
All right. Tom, you responded?
Well, I'm for doing it all at once. And the main reason is inflation. And if anybody's been to the grocery store lately, you can notice it on the first item you buy. And I watch a business channel every afternoon, most every afternoon. And they say that this inflation is going to persist all the way into 22 and maybe beyond. Originally, it was supposed to be transitory, but they didn't catch the bus. So I think it's going to be here for a while. So if every year we wait, it's going to add 224,000. If the estimate is 3 million, it's going to add well over $200,000 to the bill every time we do it. Also, if we borrow any money, in today's Wall Street Journal, the Fed maps out 2022 rate increases. So any money that you borrow next year is going to cost you more than it does this year. If we do the engineering study in January and draw the plans in February, it's going to be hard to, I'm not saying you can't open it this summer, but I don't think it's going to be open by Memorial Day. Everybody knows the decking's bad. I think, I'm not sure of this, but I think the engineers would think it would be best to do it all at once. And I don't think there's any doubt that the cost would be less. Now, I understand that not having the pool open this summer would cause some grief, but I think in the long run, it would be much cheaper. That's all I have to say now. I might add something later.
Kim?
Well, I agree with Tom and what he's saying. I mean, obviously, inflation is a big concern. From the folks that I've been talking to, at first I thought that removing the concrete, and repairing the plumbing and then, putting the concrete back was probably the right thing to do in phases. But I'm finding out now the reasons why that's not probably advisable. Number one, really the concrete's the last thing that you want to do. It's kind of like you have a cake and you put the icing on last. Concrete's the same way. We don't want to have to go back, cut out, put in stuff that we want to expand on or whatever, because that's going to create issues. And I know the mayor has said, well, we can, put the piping in there for anticipation of what we want in the future and cap it off. Okay, I understand that. Except I don't understand how it works with this plan, because what was presented from Pickering, the bathhouse and concession stand, that whole building would come down and be put out into the parking lot by about 30 feet or so to make room for the splash pad. This pool has been around since 1963, I believe, and we've gotten a lot of great use out of it. I mean, I know as a kid I enjoyed it, but I feel like we need a more modern pool folks nowadays, they do want the splash pad. I think that the way, in zero entry would be great for the top portion. But I think the way our pool is designed, it really meets everybody's need in the community, from the smallest, the little people, the little tots, up to the seniors who are enjoying the Aqua Zumba. And I don't want to see us not have a pool in June, but I kind of feel like that's where we're headed, because I'm with Tom. I think we should just bite the bullet, move on. If we don't have a pool for a summer, that's okay. You know, it's an inconvenience, and everybody will, you know, grumble about it. But then come summer of 2023, we'll have this great pool that everybody will forget about how bad it was the year before. I watched it in Parkersburg. We've all watched it happen. And all these pools around us have been updated, and it's just time. We've had a great run with our pool. We really have, but we just have to make a decision now.
Sorry. I wasn't in on the discussion, but I did watch it from last week. One of my thoughts, okay, let's say it goes the direction of not having a pool this summer. Is there something that we could do as a temporary solution? Like, hey, sorry, Vienna, we don't have the pool, but guess what? We've got, you know, some portable thing or inflatables, or we've got a sprinkler thing that we've set up that's kind of a temporary thing in some location, or maybe it's in the parking lot, and I don't know, we'd have to figure out liability and access and all those kinds of things, but it might be worth saying, hey, we don't have the pool, but we're going to do these extra activities at Jackson Park, or we're going to do these extra activities down at the ball fields, or we're going to do extra activities down at Spencer's Landing, or whatever it is. It might help soothe some of that. There's nothing to do, and we don't have anything at the pool. If you can kind of hold them off and say, but we are sensitive to the fact that you need something to do, maybe that's something that we could explore. I also think, I agree that the baby pool is one of the biggest complaints. And in recent years, the other biggest complaint has been the management group. And so that would be, even though that's not part of like the engineering study, that's a big deterrent to coming to our pool, because our pool isn't fun because they're not allowed to have fun, you know? So I think we should also look at that whether it's this year or next year comes time to reopen. I think we should take a look at how the pool is being managed operations wise during pool hours.
Okay. Well, just as a side note for what you brought up, it's funny how time goes by. This coming summer will be the 50th anniversary of the Grand Central Mall. 50 years the mall's been here. So they're planning, Jody I know has already left, but they're planning some special events for that. And we're going to participate with them as a city because they've been with us for 50 years. And so there will be some activities in the summer. And I think, you know, this year's probably one of the years that we should probably think about doing something special for the 4th of July. And so we'll make sure that we at least add some fun things. The other thing that I challenge you all to is, well, you know, if you use the $3 million as a starting point, you've got to give some thoughts as to how we're going to fund $3 million improvement. All right. I know that the city of Parkersburg has applied for the land and water grant, and we've reached out to our grant writer to start gathering information as far as the requirements go, and we will probably also apply for the land and water grant. And hopefully it's a matching grant, but hopefully they've had money left over the last couple of years that maybe next year we can get into that program and see if we can find some funding from there. But we need to consider, you know, how we're going to take on $3 million of improvements. I mean, Kim's right. It's been 1963 is when the pool was built. Okay.
I believe that land and water grant has been real successful from the people with, was it Moundsville or?
Lots of cities around have used it.
There have used it,
yeah.
and is very favorable of it.
Yeah.
The issue with that is that grant, the grant period ends at the end of this month, and so you would have a whole nother year to come around before, you know, that process is over, and then they don't grant the money to everybody. So, you know, there's going to be a couple slots for grants. There's no guarantee that we're going to get it. There's no guarantee Parkersburg is going to get it. So while I'm totally sensitive to the fact that we're going to have to figure out how to pay for this, I think I don't want to get stymied waiting on a grant that may not happen. Because we're already, you know, if we wanted to do that, we should have thought of that last year when we were talking about this.
Soft money's never good, you know.
No.
It's not.
Well, anyway,
Right.
give it some thoughts and various ideas, and We've had several conversations with our finance department about what options we have. The other thing that I would mention is when the engineer comes in to give the master plan for the park system, we can certainly quiz him about the other cities and the things that they've done. So we'll gain some knowledge there, I'm sure. So anything else for the pool this evening? Yes, sir, Tom?
You know, all these amenities that cities have, none of them make money. And I don't think that's the purpose of them, but, you know, the state parks don't make money. It's just things that enhance the quality of life for our community. And could we figure out how much money we lose on the pool? And then get down to Parkersburg and maybe work out a deal with them that people up here could use their pool and we could give them 50% off or whatever it is.
We lose about $200,000 a year on the pool.
Well, that would go a long way to enhance or you know, so people could have the advantage of going to the pool. I realize it's 4 or 5 miles down there, but it's better than nothing.
I'm sure they'd be glad to work with us.
Is that a possibility?
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah.
And then that way, we could do it all at once, and people would still have a place to go to swim.
Yeah. We can see what we can work out. All right.
So I'm just kind of lost in this process. I understand waiting on Jim Christie to come back with the master plan from the park. You know, I go to the park meetings, and I was at the meeting that he held at the Vienna Community Building, and basically we need a pool, you know. So I don't think, I mean, you know, yeah, he's going to come at the first of the year, and we're going to hear we need a pool. We know this. This has been going on forever. How do we get it off the tee? I'm getting a little bit frustrated because we just don't seem to be going anywhere with this project. So when we start looking at the first of the year, how do we put that in gear so that we can get an engineer, or we're going to continue with Pickering and start moving?
The easiest way is to put an RFP out for an engineering firm. I mean, Pickering's the one that drew the drawings that are behind you. And so, you know, they're very familiar with our pool space and all that. But you put out an RFP and ask for, you know, engineering firms.
Do we need to put out an RFP?
Yes, you do.
It's professional service.
It doesn't matter. You have to go out for an RFP.
What is an RFP?
The other thing, in that meeting, Kim, the first of the year, and it's a perfect opportunity to, you know, for us to have some hard questions, perhaps. For
Mr. Christie?
Well,
he's built several pools.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I think so. At least to, you know, have him share what knowledge he has that we may have concerns over something with the pool, but you know, it won't, you know, as the mayor said, you know, the ball won't really get rolling until that RFP is done and we choose a engineer.
Well, that's what I'm getting at then, and maybe that's, you know, when we get to the first of the year, that's what we need to do is put it on an RFP. I mean, you weren't at that meeting we were all at the community building. We've heard Mr. Christie's thoughts about the pool. I mean,
no, I wasn't. You're right. Yeah.
So that's why, you know what I'm saying. It's like, you know, I didn't think that we would have to have an RFP that we can go straight with Pickering, but
let me clarify that just a little bit. Under our bidding policy, you can do a request for professional services for engineering, but you still have to have the firms that you solicit, or I mean, if you can hire somebody without putting out what we typically think of as requests for professional services, but you still have to have individuals that are qualified. But my question is, and I'm just throwing it out there, what is the engineer going to do? I mean, I guess, do you not need a plan or an idea for the engineer to then give you you know, how much it's going to cost to build it?
Yes, but
Yeah.
you- that's part of the process.
Yeah.
All right. If you take the drawings that were done over there and then you went out to get a bid, you would have to find someone that would give hopefully more than one, but someone that would give us a cost estimate for building that pool as you see it.
Well, and that's the other question I have then, is is council electing to move forward with this project that's been proposed, or are there other proposals that council wants to consider before it goes through the process of contracting an engineer? And I only say that just because for my purposes, it's a lot easier to structure an agreement with an engineer or an engineering firm when they have an idea of what it is that they're engineering.
Oh, no, the RFP would specifically state that we're looking
That's-
for professional services for the design and oversight of construction of a new swimming pool.
Okay, that's what I'm asking.
Oh, yeah, no, that would all be spelled out. And you have to go with an RFP. I just had discussions with the state of West Virginia, and, unless it's a specific niche that only someone can perform, almost every engineering firm can design a swimming pool. So it has to be put out. Yes, sir.
What's it cost to get in the pool? $4, $5?
You know what, Tom? I haven't been to the pool for years.
It used to be 3. I think it's 4 now.
Yeah.
Well, if it's $4 and Parkersburg is $4, we could, instead of opening the pool and losing $200,000, we could buy 50,000 tickets to the Parkersburg pool,
And give them away.
and we wouldn't lose. And I think we ought to have to pay $1 so they have some skin in the game, not just come up and get a bunch of tickets. And that way, we probably wouldn't give away $100,000 worth, so it'd be $100,000 worth of that have a little bit of gas money to drive down to the pool, and we could do her all at once.
Okay.
So you have to call Tommy.
I will.
I'm just kidding.
You know what? When I grew up at the pool, we had season passes. They no longer do the season passes. The management firm doesn't do season passes, but you could buy a ticket. I think it was good for 10 visits.
Well, maybe Parkersburg has a deal like that.
And I don't remember what it was, but that's the most of a pass that you could buy for our pool. Was the 10 visit pass. Do you remember what it was, Mayor?
No, I didn't season pass. I thought it was $25, but that's been
Well, it used to
been a
be.
while. Yeah.
It used to be. So when I went there, but when my boys went there, it was a 10 entries pass. So
Everybody loves their own idea, and no exception.
Anything else this evening?
it makes sense.
Feasible.
I have one more item before we go to council comments this evening. Chief Scholl is with us this evening, and I'm sure that you all are aware of the disaster that happened in Kentucky and all of the states that joined it with the tornado the other day. And so watching the newscast of the cities that were literally destroyed by that tornado, we had a meeting this week with our emergency committee, and we've got a plan in place of how we're going to make sure that we're prepared for an emergency that would hit us like that tornado hit them. We've got an emergency plan in place that we've worked on for a number of years, but we've decided to revisit that with all of the new players that are there, the 911 center, the new sheriff, all of the support agencies. And so Fire Chief Scholl is going to set us up a meeting after the first of the year, and we're going to get all these agencies back in here and review the plan that we have in place. We're retesting all of the equipment that we have and trying to analyze whatever problems could come up in case we had to go into the situation that those folks are in. They're going to be without basic systems for quite a while. And one of the systems that we have determined that we're lacking in is our fire alarm system. We've got fire sirens all up and down Grand Central Avenue, and 3 of them are inoperable. And so Steve reached out to the electrician and had him come out and take a look at the connection boxes and all the equipment that we have in them. And basically all 3 of the electrical systems are gone. They're just not in good condition at all. And so we're going to get all 3 of those electrical boxes rebuilt. Once the boxes are built, then we're going to test our alarm system. Any of the sirens that are not operable, we're going to have them rebuilt. We hope to have that system up and running very quickly. So I've had questions from people, do we have an alarm system that will alert our citizens if we have an issue? And I know that that alarm system is programmable, and Steve can turn it on and it'll run for as long as need be if it works. You know, we all get comfortable because we all have cell phones and we all think that, you know, no matter what happens, we'll be able to communicate. But when the derecho hit, we were basically in the dark. And so we've gotten a little better with our communication systems, and they can now bring portable towers in and hook them up. But for the very first time, it would be very difficult to just keep the basic systems running that we all become dependent on. So as soon as Chief Scholl works it out with the rest of the emergency support people, we're going to put a notice out, and we're going to have the meeting and alert all of our partners that we are revisiting our emergency plan, making sure it's updated and we have all the contact points that we need to make sure that if anything goes wrong, that we can get help here as quickly as it's available. So, any comments, Chief?
No, I said the only siren that does work is the one on the fire station here. It's the biggest one, but like I said, the other ones around are not working at all due to the rust. And that is the main notification system we have in town. People don't know what's going on when they hear it, but they know something is going on. They need to make contact, find out what's going on. So it's a very, very vital system that needs to be back in place.
And Chief, we can, relative to the sirens, we can make them signal different. I mean,
911 is the one that controls it.
Right.
It's 7 o'clock on Thursday nights.
Sure.
911 controls that from out there on the hill. We have capability here where we can go in and make it a constant blast, which the plan, I believe, says constant blast for 3 minutes.
right.
Spaced and a constant blast for 3 more minutes. 3 minutes of that siren blowing constantly, it's going to get somebody's attention.
Yeah.
So anyway, we're working on that immediately, and we hope to get that done as quickly as possible. And then once we get our emergency plan people together, then we'll know if there's any other improvements that we need to have done. So having said that, we now move on to council comments. Any council comments this evening? Yes, sir, Roger.
You know, kind of just to follow up, Mayor, on what you said, one of the things that always bothers me and still does bother me, when I worked for emergency management and Homeland Security in my travels around the state and, you know, locally as well as other areas, one of the things that I would hear that disturbs me is, well, that never happened here. There was a lot of, there was just a lot of that. You know, well, I don't think that can happen here, or that won't happen here. Well, it absolutely can. You know, I'm sure that the people in Mayfield, Kentucky, you know, maybe certainly didn't expect it. You know, and some people might have had to think, well, that can't happen here. They're called natural disasters, and they can happen anywhere. And so, you know, based on that, then I'm encouraged that we're going to get back into that and look at that and revise it. And what is going to be super important is to get that information out to the citizens of Vienna, so that if something does come down, they'll know what all this means. You know, they'll know what these 3-minute blasts of the siren means. You know, to, you know, look at their radio station or TV or make phone calls, whether they need to shelter in place, whether they need to go to a shelter. So it's very important. And I'm like I said, I'm encouraged that we're getting back into that.
You'll be a vital part with your experience.
Okay.
Yes, you will get drafted. Any other council comments this evening?
I have something I wanted to get clarification on the ordinance, the temporary thing. We're still doing that, correct? That's part of that.
Yeah. If council elects to do that, I recommend we put it on the next agenda because of the. Some days I love being a lawyer. Because of the nature of the vacancy, I don't think there's anything that would prohibit candidates from going ahead and filing January 10th or picking up the paperwork to file for the remainder of the position without a formal proclamation at this point by council. I will recommend that at the next council meeting, which is January 16th, that we put on the agenda a couple of things for consideration. One is a proclamation formally declaring the position open.
13th.
Is it the 13th? Yeah. But January 13th. And the second is if council wants to consider placing a temporary person there, that we could do that then in accord with this ordinance since it's been drafted. So I would suggest those two items. But it's council's choice. If you guys want to put somebody in to serve temporarily, you can, but you need to do it by resolution.
Okay.
And then and the second is I don't think there's anything to prohibit potential candidates from filing, even absent at this point specific declaration of the seat being vacant. But I do think that is something that will need to be done just to be in accord with our statute or ordinance.
Okay, so then somebody who wants to run for the position in the May election, they'll start filing their papers on the 10th.
Correct.
We don't meet until the 13th, and so when people, let's just say we say, yes, we're going to do this, we're going to have a temporary position, then those folks who want to put their name in for that, they're going to fill out the same paperwork?
Yeah.
They just don't pay a fee.
Right.
And it is, I don't remember, I didn't bring my paperwork with me tonight. Is there some designation on there? How do I know the difference?
You would be the one that would be setting up the election. All right.
Mm-hmm.
And so the election, as you would set it up, would be that it would be anyone that wants to run for the temporary position would need to come in and fill out the candidate's qualification form. And once you gather all of those names, then council would meet as a body to interview those candidates that have put their name in. And hopefully, depending on how many people would sign up, we would narrow it down to 2 or 3 people and then make a selection from that.
I'm saying, like, on the paperwork though, like, let's say it's that somebody wants to do both. Like, they're running in May, but they're also going to be the
fill out
temporary.
2 sets of
Fill
paperwork.
out 2. Is there something on there?
$60.
You're saying, is there something formal? No, the paperwork's identical.
Yeah, and if somebody is only going to do one or the other, like, I'll do the temporary, but I don't want to run.
Yeah.
Then how do I know on the paperwork?
Just ask them when they submit the paperwork.
Okay.
If they submit it with a fee, they're telling you that they're running.
Okay.
And if they submit it without a fee, then they're going to be considered for the temporary placement.
Okay.
But I don't think there's any harm in asking either. Do you? When you submit the paperwork.
That's fine. Yeah.
So I have a question.
Yes.
So when we meet again on January 13th, and then we'll have a resolution announcing that there's a vacancy.
Right.
At that point, that starts the clock, right? We have 14 days for the solicitation of the candidates.
Yeah, I think, and it's different. Like I said, it's different than what it is for the people that are voting. I mean, that are running for the election. They can start filing on the 10th. So
right, I understand.
So if you want to be a candidate for the city, yes, that's going to start the clock as soon as the position is open, 14 days.
Okay, so will you or somebody be kind of outlining how this is going to go? Because when the mayor just said, like, we'll narrow it down to a couple people, depending on.
Well, that's up to council. That's why that section was left. I left it specifically vague, if that makes sense.
Right.
Because I recognize that not every council member, it's easy to schedule something like this where we have regular meetings, but it may be more difficult to schedule interviews with candidates and so forth. So I was trying to leave you guys as much flexibility to do that. The only thing the ordinance requires is that you be a person who can regularly run for office in Vienna and hold office in Vienna, and that you submit the paperwork saying that you want to be considered. Council can choose however it wants to conduct that. The county recently, for the sheriff, conducted bulk of their interviews in the public. Now I recognize they also were questions that they asked in an executive session, which I also think is appropriate. My suggestion is you take your list of candidates, you set up one time to do an interview so that all 6 people are here, you interview them, and then if you have individual questions that you feel need to be addressed in an executive session, move to an executive session, ask the questions, and go from there.
And so time frame wise, so then, like you said, the 14 days. So then when the clock starts, so let's say it's the 14th through the 27th, that's how long we will accept
Right.
the applications.
Yeah. The window for asking to sit temporarily is only 14 days.
And so then once we have that, we close that off, and
Yes.
then that's when possibly the following week
If whatever
we
council
bring them
chooses.
in and start. Okay.
So sometime between after the 13th or whatever, we need to really think how we want to conduct those interviews or the process.
And that person's only going to be here until May,
Right.
unless they're running.
So we really need to. I say on the 13th.
Temporary assignment would be until the vote is
Until the
certified.
vote's certified. That's correct.
Is there a resolution we need to have
I
to
can-
come up with how we want to do that then?
Yeah, just
I think we should go ahead and do that on the 13th because we'll lose,
That's what
we've
I'm
got
saying.
up on the 27th. I mean, that's the last day that they could submit it. And whether we're having, I mean, that's getting to be budget season. We're having special meetings and all this stuff. So I do think we should get on it.
that's if you want to
Yeah.
fill it.
If that's what we do. We may not, it may not go that way. But I'm just saying, if we do, then it needs to. Otherwise, you have
I
somebody in
agree
here
with
for a
that.
month.
What I will do is I'll draft a resolution that says that, there'll be a proclamation declaring it open, and then I'll draft a resolution that says, all applications for the temporary position have to be filed no later than, and I'll look at the date. And then interviews for prospective qualified candidates will take place on, a date within a week of the submissions. And I guess the only question I have is for scheduling purposes, do you want to have a special meeting just to deal with that on a different date? Because we can deal with that. We don't have to deal with that on a Thursday because it is budget. And you guys can decide that now. I mean, if you want to do it on a Tuesday or a Wednesday or something, that's fine. That's not something that, has to be agended because it's setting a date for a meeting. So if you guys want to talk about that, when do you want to set? If we're going to do interviews.
And
when
we
do you
could
want
go
to set
ahead
it?
and set something now, and
Yes.
it can always be amended, and the thing might not get passed anyway, and it's a moot point. So, I mean, I think because of the budget stuff and everything going on, personally, why not do it February 1st? It gives them, 4 more days or whatever to get their thoughts straight before they sit before us, and that could be a special, that's a Tuesday.
Let me see if I don't think city
Is that
court
court?
meets here that night, but let me double check the calendar.
Because I think it'd be wise just to go ahead and have that written up and in place just in case we go there. If we don't, it's moot. But if we need it, we can always make amendments to it if we need to also.
Well, let's look at February. That would probably help. Yeah, there's a tree and beautification meeting on Tuesday, February 1st.
We can bump that.
But yeah, I think
We'll
this
move them
is,
somewhere else.
Okay.
I think this is pretty important.
Sorry, Jack.
But otherwise, council
Welcome to the
chambers-
senior center. It's really pretty. Travis Street. Yeah.
So special meeting February 1st to interview candidates,
Yeah.
and I'll prepare something.
Yeah.
And I'm suppose council would like to interview them all at once.
I think that's the best.
Okay.
Yeah. They need to be there if they want.
Roger and I have both been through this procedure. And just as something to put in your mind, you really don't want to have them all in the same place at the same time, because the one that goes first, the rest of the people that are out there hear the comments that are made, everyone. So my recommendation is if we bring them all in and we interview them, yes, sir, we interview them in there, because it's not fair if you're first or you're last because of all the things that you hear. So there has to be,
It's good.
I mean, that's the procedure that we've went through in the past, is
It is.
interview them one at a time.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yep.
So,
I like it. Thank you.
yes, sir,
My next,
you are.
I'm sure everybody's seen the devastation down in Kentucky, and one of these days it might be us. I just wonder if it'd be appropriate to send the Red Cross or somebody down there $500. Because one of these days we may need the 500.
We can't vote on that this evening, Tom, because it's not an agenda item. Okay?
The only thing I was going to suggest with that is if council wants to act, formally, I think that each of you could submit a requisition form for, since there are six, $83.33, with two of you doing $83.34. I think you could do
Your
it that way.
discretionary money that you
Yeah,
have,
with your discretionary money.
if you would like to make a contribution to that.
But if you want to do something formally as a council,
Yeah.
just set it on the next agenda.
Okay, but we can do it because they could probably use the money now.
Yeah.
So if you want part of your discretionary money done there, we'll take care of that.
It has to be in writing.
Yeah, you have to sign a form. You have to say this is where you want to spend your money.
Come up tomorrow.
Yes, sir. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, yeah, just sign a
We each
form.
go 100 and I'd give them 7.
You can,
I'll match whatever you do.
I don't know what your budget
Except
is.
pool passes. I'm not buying $100,000 worth of pool passes.
Randy, each of the council members have a
$100,000 a head.
Yeah, $1,000. Okay. So anybody who wants to do it, just sign the form and we'll take care of it. Oh, goodness. All right. Anything else this evening?
Yeah, I just have one council comment. Because I know I emailed you, Mayor, and you gave me an answer, which was fine. But I do get a lot of questions about this, and I thought maybe you can just address the public. Everybody wants to know what happened with the trees down at Spencer's Landing.
So in order to get the property surveyed, we had to take the trees out in order to get the surveyors in there. And the fence line is the property boundary. And so because that's where the parking area will be for the ramp, that's where
The
we
kayak
started.
launch.
Okay. So eventually that will be concrete and then the ramp will go down because it's the lowest spot on the riverbank for us. The less slope we have to put in, the more safe it is for the handicap accessibility. So that's the only reason why the trees, and they were very nice trees and there was a lot of scrub in there. So
Yeah, well, it's always a lot of unintended consequences because a lot of people are crying about trees being lost.
Do we know if, where those trees come out and where the fence line is, once that project is developed, will there be enough room between ramp, road, or whatever, and that fence to where we could, put rows of pines or something to?
we've already reached out to Jack. He's working on what he thinks will be best for the coverage down there because we, want it to be looking nice. So that's Jack's going to make a recommendation of fast growing trees and
Thank you, Jack. Yeah.
Well, he was
If you need help, let me know.
he was going to decide on
The senior center.
That February 1st meeting.
Yeah.
So we bumped it.
How about white pines?
Yep. All right. So Anything else, Kim?
No, sir, thank you.
All right. Well,
Wait, is there announcement wise? So there's no council next week, right?
that is correct.
Okay, I didn't.
It's a holiday.
I know. I wasn't. Just want to make sure.